Citizens of Kingstown, welcome to Too Many Shows, a TV podcast. I am your host, Benjamin David. We are both live on our YouTube channel, B David Studios, and you can also find the pod wherever you listen to podcasts. So subscribe and follow there as well if you haven't. On that note, smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications for future streams of Too Many Shows. Also, any kind of super donation here on the stream or on any of our videos is much appreciated. And we're continuing the pods and the streams with our newest show, Mayor of Kingstown, baby. The mayor himself, Jeremy Renner, returns strong with the season 4 premiere. And so today we shall review this first episode titled Coming Round the Mountain. You can tell my excitement. It's just, even in audio, you guys can see it. Now, before we continue, I should first address the Tulsa King situation. So as much as I still like the show in general. But as I've been saying in recent reviews, I just don't love it as much as I used to. Again, Terrence Winter from The Sopranos is off the show for this season, but good news, he is coming back for season 4, and again, he's a writer, executive producer, but he is coming back for season 4, so I do have some hope, at which point, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, something I do love is Mayor of Kingstown. Again, it has seriously become one of my favorite shows of all time. I am on the edge of my seat. I cannot wait to review, again, this fucking season. So anyway, moving forward, we're still going to be going live every Monday, since the episodes also for Kingstown, they drop Sundays. It's just now, again, we're going to be covering Kingstown instead of Tulsa King. And we're going to start between 2 and 2:30 p.m. EST every Monday. And finally, if you want to hear our exclusive episode for the Sam Jackson spin-off series of Tulsa King, Nola King, then head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/BatmanBeyondMedia. We also have our Alien Earth post-mortem exclusive on there, giving my series reaction and overall thoughts. And then as patrons, you guys also get early access to podcasts, detailed episode notes for each new pod, and a ton of more exclusive vids and pods you can only find there. That's all just at the $1 level. Again, patreon.com/BatmanBeyondMedia. All right, so let's get to it, man. My review of the season 4 premiere, people, Mayor of Kingstown. So some IMDb credits, and then we have our non-spoiler initial thoughts. And then, of course, our spoiler walkthrough. So episode 1 is once again titled Coming Round the Mountain. Script is by Dave Erickson, who wrote a bunch of Kingstown episodes, Tulsa King as well, speaking of Tulsa King, SOA, which I've been rewatching now because Taylor Sheridan is actually, obviously co-creator of the show, Yellowstone, everything in this universe, or in this universe of shows, but he is the cop in that first season. I'm sure a lot of you guys know that, but I didn't realize how many episodes, my point, is that he's in that. Anyway, so back to Dave Erickson, who wrote, again, on Sons of Anarchy. He'll also be show-running Nola King, which once again, that's our recent, our most recent Patreon episode is on Nola King, the Sam Jackson show. So if you like, man, and the writing, spoilers, in non-spoilers, I fucking love this guy writing Kingstown. Full confidence, so hopefully with Nola King, and that I'm hoping is also going to be a little less comedic, which again, kind of why we're switching away from Tulsa King. It's a little too comedic for me, but now I'm confident that maybe with Dave Erickson running the show, Nola King will be a little more serious. So back to Kingstown here, directed by Christoph Shrew, who directed 5 episodes altogether of Kingstown. Also directed some Fear the Walking Dead, which he worked with Dave Erickson on that as well. Snowpiercer, the series, if you like that series. And of course, created by Hugh, Dillon, Eon, Lieutenant Eon, and the great Taylor Sheridan. Music composition is by Andrew Lockington, who also does music for Lioness, for Landman, Taylor's other shows, and then the movie Argo. So cast a bunch of new faces this season, so casting is very exciting for season 4. Top billing, of course, our boy Jeremy Renner as the mayor himself, Mike fucking McCluskey. This guy, oh my God. And I've been doing a Renner rewatch. I watched Wind River, which weirdly, I was like, oh, I just want to watch a Taylor Sheridan movie. Renner's top billing. So he's in that. I just been watching so much stuff and he's so good. What was the other one? The Town. Watch The Town. Edie Falco, Carmela fucking Soprano, makes her first appearance this season as prison warden Nina Hobbs. And man, we're going to talk about it, but seeing her so different yet some things so similar. I mean, she's really one of the gang leaders in The Sopranos. It goes without saying. So to see, but in such a different way. This character is, Edie. Fucking Edie Falco. Toby Bamtifa returns as Bunny Washington. Taylor Hanley, who, by the way, we're going to get to it as with all these guys, but since we've never really talked about the show on here, or actually at all, I And that guy's British, by the way. Like, the fact that Bunny Washington IRL is British is amazing. And we'll go through this faster, but I just have to compliment these actors. Taylor Hanley is Kyle McCluskey. Hugh Dillon is Lieutenant Ian Ferguson. Eon. Oh, God. And by the way, also spoilers, obviously, for everything that's happened throughout the first 3 seasons as well. Before I even get to that, just understand that if you've never watched the show, don't watch this review. And he, again, co-created this show. Finally, our newest villain is Lenny James as Frank Moses. All right, so some non-spoiler thoughts. Briefly, again, briefly, my thoughts on the show in general, and then why it's one of my favorites. So in our non-spoilers here, again, since we haven't talked about it, I just have to compliment the show and tell you like where I'm at with it and why I'm so excited. Oh, God. Like, first of all, it's TV concentrate. So even if you look at within Taylor Sheridan's own work, Yellowstone versus this, or Yellowstone versus Lioness, he's still, I'm pretty sure that show, that was like 2018. Paramount Plus didn't exist as a streaming thing. Point is, like, this and Lioness are TV concentrate. They're not part of the old network model where Yellowstone longer seasons. I think they were like 15, 16 episode seasons. As a lot of people agree, the later seasons drag a bit. The show didn't have a lot of direction. These shows, I heard someone review the show Empire. I've never watched Empire, but one of my favorite TV reviews of all time is just saying, the show doesn't wait for you to watch it. Shit just happens. No one explains anything. And because Taylor Sheridan, he's famous for saying he hates exposition. This is a guy, once again, Sons of Anarchy. Probably not to that show, but his experience, my point is, in Hollywood in general, he used to hate as an actor delivering just all this crap exposition. So these shows just don't fucking wait for you to watch them. And between this and, again, Lioness, especially Lioness Season 1, I'm not as impressed with Season 2, and that's coming back amazingly, but holy shit. And then even Landman, I think Landman is a totally different approach. It's more of like a dramedy, but I would still say in terms of the writing of it and how tight it is, the shorter seasons, it just feels as fresh and modern as kind of TV can get. They're essentially movies split into seasons, but truly that. Like, people have said that for a while now with the quote-unquote golden age of TV, but as we know, again, a lot of shows just fucking drag, including his own work. So that's one of the reasons I love it. And then, of course, I'm a sucker for crime series. And you'd think at this point I've seen them all, but, The Wire, Sopranos, Gomorrah, these are things that are just part of, as much as Batman, Wayne Enterprises, as much as I'm into Batman, I love crime shit. But this is something, again, so fresh and different because it is, again, TV concentrate. They're not wasting any time. This is where it feels more like The Wire, because The Wire was like that too. Even though it was 5 seasons, it was, and I think they did 12 episodes each season, but as everybody knows, that show is airtight. Breaking Bad, airtight television. This feels like that, but even, again, more concentrated than that. So putting that, again, together with this crime thing, and then more specifically, the hard-boiled detective feel of this. The grizzled guy with the shady past who now does detective work and works with the cops, but he's just constantly beating people up. Just the idea of Mike McCluskey. And again, we're going to get to non-spoilers for this episode, but I just have to say this. The idea of this character, a power broker between prisons and gangs in a town that the main, resource of the town essentially is imprisonment, incarceration. That's the business of the town. That's why people live in the town. Everything revolves around the town. Everyone in that town is somehow connected to a prison. Then, of course, gangs. You add that to the whole Michigan Rust Belt, outskirts of Detroit type shit, and it's a powder keg, right? So this is the setting and the fact that it's, again, a very Batman thing. Gotham City. It's Kingstown, mayor of Kingstown. It's the town of Kingstown informs the characters in the show. It is a character unto itself. Like, Kingstown is a character, you get my point. Add to that, again, this guy, it just feels so kind of old school crime, noirish, right? But still so modern, fresh, TV concentrated, as I cannot emphasize more. All right, so back to this episode. This is going to sound so corny, but watching this premiere makes me proud of this show. So corny, but it's not a perfect show. And this is why I say proud. It's not a perfect show. It's not airtight like The Wire or Breaking Bad, even though I said that, I know I said that before, that it was because of like the length of the season, but I just mean in terms of the quality, this show had some problems. Like most people agree season 2 especially is a bit aimless. Like, and the real weakness is Iris. Like, also according to most people, that's not just me. So even though you're taking this, again, TV concentrate approach, it meandered is my point. But this episode feels like fucking grown up Kingstown. Like the show has matured in that it's taken all the pieces they put into motion in season 3 and just made it like, and made, sorry, every element of the show better. Like everything about the show is now better. Even the darkly comedic moments, not comedic, but humorous stuff is good. It's just, it's shot well. It just feels like it has such a clean direction now. Like even though it's so hard to predict everything, which is what you want, it just feels much tighter now in general. And then the drama, dude. Talk about airtight. Like each character's motivation perfectly fits into the drama that ensues between them. It's like the least contrived drama you can come up with in a world this chaotic. Again, as good as like season 1, I should have probably said in the very beginning, season 1 is like the true kind of TV concentrate, whereas that second season, while it doesn't waste time per se, the Irish stuff and the Russian stuff is just not interesting. Like it's, I mean, the good thing, I guess, we don't have to spend too much time with them because the episodes would be like 35, 39 minutes, which is worth pointing out. But like none of this shit is wasted. It's, again, it's like a mature version of something that was already good. And so overall, a fucking home run of a return. I cannot believe how strong of a show that I love this much, like I already loved it, could somehow get better with time. It's only the premiere, but one thing I think I can predict is that we are back at season 1 level of Kingstown. Like this is television at its best. Oof. And it's also worth saying before we get to spoilers very briefly, season 3 I think picked up a little bit. Things got better, but you still had the lingering Iris. Even Milo, you know, as great as Aidan Gillen is, speaking of The Wire and Game of Thrones, Sansa Stark, you know, he wasn't, none of that stuff was that great in my opinion. So you get all those people off the board. And we literally open the episode, as we're going to get to, ooh, talk about Russians getting taken off the board. God, again, television at its best. All right, and so begins our beat-by-beat spoiler walkthrough for Season 4, Episode 1. So we open, cold open, on the train tracks, and this is a new character to the show, Frank, who we later find out, this is the kind of blessing and the curse, and by the way, I'll say this now, anything that's been on previews, and I try not to watch them for television, but now that I'm covering it, I kind of have to. It's a blessing and not blessing and a curse, what do I want to say? Double-edged sword, because you want to know, but you don't, but I have to know for coverage. Anyway, we know this guy is from Detroit is the point. So, and this, as I'm going to call it, is our first character of state intervention. We can say SI from now on, because the whole theme, it seems, of this season, we're going to see with Edie Falco later, is like bigger factions, bigger versions of, because I'm pretty sure this dude is a Crip from Detroit. So, and then as we're going to see with Edie Falco, she's a prison interim, a warden interim essentially, like a person who is a fixer, someone who is sent there specifically to clean up an institution. So maybe this guy is sent from, like, you know, Detroit's probably the corporate headquarters of the Crips, maybe, like it is with New York / the Italians. So we'll see, but that's my prediction of this, and the shit that we see later too with the Colombians for sure. Now it's saying, this guy goes, again, Frank Moses, war is what always determines value. What you kill for makes it costly. Because he was talking about a penny and how they discontinued whatever metals went into the penny, how it became more copper than anything due to the war effort in World War II. And so the point is, again, basically, he's just like, war is what always determines value. So the introduction of this dude is just this ruthless, super intelligent is the point. Before we even see the ruthless shit, you're like, uh-oh, this dude's doing history lessons. He's one of them smart villains. He's one of them well-read villains. And then we get our quadruple homicide via decap. Ugh, like decapitates via freight train, that is. And then Frank picks up the flattened penny and just looks at it. And then the tilt up to our titular Kingstown series intro. Like, holy fuck. I mean, and you see the heads and everything, they do not hold back a thing. This show, the violence, and that's a thing that with these shows as well, and they never held back. It's very Game of Thrones in that sense. And as much violence as, my point is, as much violence as we see on TV and movies and stuff, they have still found a way to make it fresh. And a lot of the Sheridan violence is like that. He's just, he makes it very real. Oh God. And so in our series intro, I just love these animated mug shots that they always do. We're obviously, I'm not going to get into detail here, but our new actors, we have Laura Benatti, who's going to play the CO. Oh, I didn't have it in my list there, but I have her name later on. Lenny James is who plays, once again, Frank Moses, Edie Falco, and yeah, I just love these intros. We're getting new scenes in the intro as well, like new shots of new spots. New shots of new spots. All right, so opening the episode, Mike's office. He's like, turn yourself into the county sheriff. Now, this is so hard to watch. Like, right off the bat, we just launch. I mean, of course, we got our violent cold open. But point is, Kyle was facing 15 to 20. They're sitting there with the lawyer. Sorry, Mike is sitting there with the lawyer and Kyle, and they're figuring out sentencing and like the next steps of Kyle going into jail. And he's like, all right, what you're going to do is turn yourself into the county sheriff. So he was facing 15 to 20. Then they made a deal down to 2 years. So Evelyn brought it down to 2 years, and then they said he could be out in 6 months on good behavior. So you went from potentially 20 years down to 6 months. That's, and again, he's locked up for shooting Robert on the bridge, which I just did my whole rewatch, which you guys might have seen on YouTube. I was supposed to do like a pre-show last week. I didn't end up having time to do it, making the transition to this. But the point is, I did my whole rewatch, and that's one of the reasons I didn't have time, because I wanted to obviously rewatch the whole show. Fresh in my mind, dude, Robert kind of needed it. Like, he's been needed to be put down in some way or another. I don't mean by death, but like, that guy is a fucking problem. He is, we're going to talk about Renner's reptile eyes later. This guy's even worse. Sociopath, everybody knows that Robert's just talk about muscle in a gang. Like, you always need your muscle in any gang. That guy's beyond muscle, right? And then the fact that he has the law behind him makes him even more dangerous, obviously. SWAT, was in Afghanistan. The dude's just a monster, an absolute monster. And so, point is, one thing I didn't specifically remember was that Robert, one of the Crips on the bridge, that crazy shootout at the end of season 3 where everything culminates, Russians v. Crips, one of the Crips literally goes, I surrender, puts his gun down, says, I surrender, says that out loud, puts his hands up, there's a pause, and Robert just lights his ass up. Like, and then he's about to literally shoot a guy, and so I don't want to do like total recaps, because you guys, again, needed to have watched all of this, and I don't want to take too much time with that, but the point is, if you freshly watch that whole situation, like, Kyle was completely in the right, and so begins, once again, going into this season, all of the motivations of the characters are so believable, because you completely can understand Kyle's position. You can also even understand Robert's in that position. The dude had a gun, and he's like, I just want to protect my kid, because all of this gunfire is chaos. And that's like the show in a nutshell. You always understand, I mean, at its best. Again, I should amend that the whole show is airtight in the very beginning, like I said, but at least the show at its best in the first season, parts of season 3, and now, you just understand all of it, and it is all believable. It's such good fucking television, like I said. All right, so again, Mike, back to the office. Mike is incensed that Kyle now has to walk the gauntlet. And by the way, completely blames Evelyn for this, which we're going to get to. But he's just like, wait, why does he have to do, because he's like, he's got to go in through essentially the normal channels of other prisoners. And Mike is not happy about that, because he knows Mike was inside. This is, again, not just the detective with a shady past. Again, they've elevated all these tropes. This dude literally joined AB, the Aryan Brotherhood, just to survive, because it was like 2 to 1, 3 to 1, or it was 3 to 1 race-wise in terms of whites, and that was the only way this dude could survive, right? So this is a dude who has done it all to survive, knows jails inside and out, and he's like, My cop brother ain't walking the gauntlet. But guess what? Your cop brother is walking the fucking gauntlet. Ugh. And so the lawyer leaves, and he's just super pissed at the lawyer. He's like, what are you good for? You can't even avoid the gauntlet. He's like, Mike, I just worked magic. Like, between this lawyer and the deal that Evelyn made, again, 20 years to 6 months. But Mike, again, he just knows the reality of it. All it takes, as we will see, you can't even get to your cell. It's not even just day one. It's, you can't get to your cell. Holy shit. So Mike's like, you know, it doesn't have to go like this. It's like, yeah, it does. Again, dialogue, so good. And that's another thing that, back to, again, since we haven't talked about the show, the dialogue is so good. It's so free of exposition. Even when it did kind of meander, even those scenes like weren't bad. That's the other cool thing, I should say that too. Even when the show is like at its quote unquote worst, it doesn't, like, the scenes themselves don't weirdly, I don't know. It's just, again, and specifically because the dialogue is my point. So back to this episode. Like, again, Mike's just like, or sorry, Kyle just goes, yeah, it actually does. Like, this is what I have to do. I got to pay for what I did. And what I did was right. Like, Robert's a psycho. And if I just eat this charge, we don't have to dig up. Because essentially, here's what's at stake. To zoom out and stop just continuing to go through the episode. It might be self-evident, but this is what it is. And this is what Hugh Dillon's character, Ian, says later. It's all a house of cards. And Mike says it to Tracy. Like, if I open my mouth and quote unquote do what's right, continue to do what's right, essentially. Like, it was right to shoot Robert. But now, if I am truthful about everything, all the dirt that Mike's gang has done is going to come to light. And that's where it's truly going to turn into a gang. And then season 5 of the show is just everyone's in prison. And God, I have predictions about that. I think maybe we'll do a Patreon episode about, just because, especially where things are going this season, and how now you have this no bullshit warden. She can't be bought. And then even if something happens to her, like, obviously worst case, they take out Edie Falco. Like, you're fucked at that point. Again, if the whole theme of this is state intervention, what's going to happen at that point? Like, you're going to have literal feds, like stormtroopers. We already saw the National Guard at the end of season 1. You think they're not going to, if you know what I'm saying? So back to this, and she has been a warden at federal prison. I think she said 3 federal, 2 state. That's her background, and as flawless a background as she said. She is a fixer. My point is that, like, between Evelyn not budging, whatever happens to her, it all will just escalate in a bad way. And I think we can all predict that it's not going to be good for many of Mike's gang. And if they do a Wire thing where you just wrap it up, like after this season, you just do one more and it's a complete, it's going to be a tragedy, right? I mean, I think we know that. There might be some hope. There is some hope to this, but Jesus Christ, this show. Anyway, back to the episode. It's just so fucking heartbreaking, this office scene. Like, them facing the facts and it coming down to the time of him actually going in, the reality setting in. Ugh. And then Mike reassures Kyle. He's like, look, I got the place wired. Carney will have your back, all the shit. Kyle leaves the office and Rebecca's like, he's going to be okay. And Renner's like, yeah, he will. And this is something I probably should have said in non-spoilers. Renner's performance. My Renner rewatch, in this episode specifically, this character specifically trying to keep it together. That's like the theme of both Renner and Mike. It's like this meta, right? Because Mike is always ready to pop. And we've seen, again, reptilize, like I said about Robert. Here's the example. When we saw Mike, I said I was going to give the example with Renner doing it. When he goes into that AB house after the thing with Iris and just takes all those dudes out and shoots a woman with a shotgun through the bathroom door. We don't see it, but that definitely happened. We know what this dude's capable of. Again, he was literally AB inside. He's not outside, but he was inside. So, like, him trying to keep it together is something I'm just going to keep talking about because and as it builds, and his body language, just the shit he is trying to do to keep it together is unbelievably good. All right, so back to the episode. He's like, yeah, he will. He's going to be okay. Yeah, I mean, we just know. We all just know that it is... Ugh. then he gets a call from Ian, and Ian's like, Mike, you gotta come see this. And he goes, yeah, I could use a distraction. And we already know what it is because we saw it earlier in episode. Like, this is what this guy has for distractions. This is one of the things I love watching about crime series is that they're so fucked up. Like, these people's lives are so fucked up that anytime I have a problem in my life, I just think about what this guy does for a distraction is has a job where it's 4 decapitated Russians on a train track. That's a distraction for Mike McCluskey. So on the tracks, he's like, decapitated these fuckers like a guillotine. That's what Ian says. And then Mike always does this, by the way, at crime scenes. Oh, Jesus Christ, Ian. Like, he's mad at Ian. I will say the last time that Mike got pissed was, it was when when one of the gangs sent a pit bull through the sunroof. They start chewing up these dudes. And then when Ian gets there, the dog is still just eating the carcass. And has to shoot the dog, right? Again, the dark comedy of the show. And this is, again, another one where it's darkly comedic. Point is, Mike was like, oh, a little heads up would be nice. And he still said that he gave him a heads up right before that. And he's like, decapitated him. He said the word decapitation, but I love that Mike, again, takes it on Ian. He also says that they were drugged first. They found syringes in the brush, and he's like, so they were drugged first, and the freight train takes a mile to break, so even if you see him, because Mike's like, you didn't see him? He goes, yeah, well, it takes a mile to break. Oh, God. And Mike goes, someone's cleaning up Constantine's mess. So Constantine, of course, was the someone on a podcast said he's the David Letterman-looking Russian bad guy from last season who, again, wasn't terrible. It just was like meh. And Mike is like, this is the devil we don't know. Which, to not know a devil in Kingstown, like as if there aren't enough devils you know. But that is Mike's job, right? He's always making deals with the devil. We'll literally see it later with AB, which I'm sure was deliberate, that he has to go to this Aryan meth house to get information and let this piece of shit cook, even though he headbutts his boy. But like, part of his job is letting these gangs do their business, right? So, but even he's going like, this is the devil we don't know. And again, back to this hard-boiled, old-school neo-noir. It's like The Wire meets an old-school mystery where we know what's going on. But I love that this Frank Moses guy is playing 4D chess with the gangs of Kingstown. And literally, that was the only scene we saw him. That was the one scene that we saw that character was in that opening, which is awesome. Sorry, so again, someone's cleaning up Constantine's mess. Now, right. So the whole thing, this is another example of state intervention. Totally worth saying. And then we'll get back to Anchor Bay, and we're going to meet our girl Edie Falco. I can't wait. But real quick, totally worth mentioning, and I should have said it before, the fathers, as the Russians call them. This is another example, like I said, the state intervention of the fathers. Sorry, Milo talks to Constantine, and he's like, the fathers were not, in his just indistinguishable Russian accent. I don't know why he's so bad at accents, but he's like, the fathers were not pleased with your performance here in Kingstown, and blah, 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 blah. And those two had a beef. And the point is that the fathers were letting Milo operate. Before Constantine got there, Constantine's job was to clean up after Milo. Now that Constantine's gone, the fathers are definitely going to have to come in and probably clean up the mess at some point. These seem to be leftover Russians to make a point, right, by this Frank Moses guy, who, again, we don't know the exact motivations, but back to the Russian thing, that's another example of the pressures that are going to be coming into Kingstown, is that without both Milo and we know Milo's dead, finally, this time we know Milo's dead. We saw the bullets go into him, so both Milo and him gone. Point is, they were probably letting Milo operate for a while because even though he was in prison, it's a prison town. He was still able to run the family. But with both, again, him gone and Constantine gone, that's what Mike is talking about. So cut to Anchor Bay Prison. Oof. Again, intervention 1, interestingly, is this Phantom Menace, if you will, for the Star Wars nerds. While Edie's character right here, so we cut right to, because again, this is when Mike goes, this is the devil we don't know. And this devil has a whole new approach. Because again, you have to think of every group of characters is a gang. You got your Crips, you got your Bloods, you got the Colombians that we're meeting, the Russians, in this case, the prison. It's its own gang, right? And Mike got his crew, but this is a new gang, and this one is not one that is going to work with him, as we're going to know. So I just love that it's like the devil we don't know, cut to the devil we very much know, or at least is making herself known. I mean, we just met this character, but I think you see my point. She's like in your face, whereas this Frank Moses guy is doing all of this behind the scenes, which is a much more crime approach, right? To be secretive and whatever. Whereas she's very by the book and no fucking nonsense. I mean, at least so far we know she's by the book. We're going to get to a scene where I'm like, maybe she's going to start doing some street level shit. Anyway, a theme throughout this series, as I kind of just talked about, like, yeah, I just said all this. It's like how similar the characters are, but they're all just in different gangs. Yeah. All right, so Kingstown. Oh, sorry. So real quick, Kingstown also, like, we got to talk about this very briefly, but totally worth pointing out. Again, Kingstown is a character unto itself. It feels closer, the exteriors, where they're shooting it and stuff, to what it was in the first season. Now, if you're not kind of familiar with the shooting of it, the first season they shot in, was it Toronto? Yes, that's what it was. Toronto the first season. Then they went to, because Hugh Dillon is from an area near Toronto, I believe, and that's what inspired the show, is that the co-creator of the show, along with Taylor Sheridan, is from a town in Canada with like 5 or 7 prisons, whatever it is. I think Kingstown has 7 prisons, and his town had 7 or 9 or whatever ridiculous amount of prisons this town has. So back to this, it's like, sorry, I forgot where I was going with that. Oh yeah, Kingstown itself, my bad. It feels like, even though if they are still shooting in Pittsburgh, my point, it feels more consistent, and it feels more cohesive to the first season. And again, back to kind of Kingstown basics at their best, though. Like when the show was at its best, as I said, season 1. So I love that it kind of, the town itself feels closer to that again as well. So our new warden is introducing herself to the prison staff, and Edie is so good here. Like, God, my track record's as flawless as you'll find. And it's not that thick of a southern accent, but you'll hear it. Because in the previews, I had no idea it had a slight twang to it, but it does. Again, my track record's as flawless as you'll find. Anchor Bay is flawed. It's not an accusation, it's a fact. And she is so matter of fact. I love it. Ugh. There is not a word that she says that is wasted. Like, she'll let you, her interactions with people, it's all perfectly like, I am in power. That's exactly what she is expressing with how she talks to people and everything. And this Deputy Warden Torres that she introduces, like, I have some theories on him, man. Like, maybe not theories, but he just looks like a savage is my point. I predict some shit's going to happen that dude he's going to be present for, and it's not going to be pretty. And this is, again, where she might be street level a savage. Like, who knows what this woman is capable of. Anyway. So she goes, Carney, right? Because Carney tries to kind of kiss her ass. He's like, Warden, I'm very impressed with your resume. He's still used to this old Kingstown, right? Where you can kiss ass, pay people off. And she's like, Carney, right? Yeah. Oh, you were Kareem's right hand. Okay. The closest thing to the right hand of Kareem does not impress. And she is, like, every line, again, that comes out of her mouth is, like, the most brutal recap. There's a line, in fact, Sopranos, of all things, where I think John Hurt is the guy who plays the dirty cop in that first season, and he goes, hey, Tony, you have a real way of summing someone's life up in one sentence. Because he just says, like, you're just a drunk, crooked cop with a blah, blah, blah complex. And Tony Soprano is brilliant at that, right? One sentence, he just completely sums up your life, and this is exactly what Edie does here. She goes, oh, well, I mean, conveniently, his wife was able to collect all of his pension benefits. Well, what does she say? He's a hero to his family, surely. And she's like, none of this is and again, I keep going back to Sopranos, but she, of all people, like Edie Falco in an interview said, almost all the time on that show, people are not saying what's on their mind. Every word that comes out of this person's mouth is everything that's on her mind. Again, unless she has like some street power as well. But beside that, it's like, you get my point. But that, again, goes to that kind of mirror of this Frank Moses Phantom Menace. I gotta stop saying Phantom Menace, maybe. Or maybe I should continue saying Phantom Menace. I will not abide any lingering loyalty. And he goes, you can't be loyal to a dead man. Because they try to defend Kareem. They're like, look, he died in the yard doing this and that. She goes, why was he out there with, like, she breaks the whole thing down. She's like, we saw it, right? I don't have to recap what happened, but she says something, God, again, so brutal. She's like, he was in a back alley with race, ugh, it's just so nuts. And then, anyway, he's like, you can't be loyal to a dead man, Warden. She goes, yeah? Tell that to Jesus. Again, dialogue, so on point. Jackson, walk with me. So Jackson is the guy that Bunny had on the inside who took off his hat. Remember when the fucking Crips completely invaded her castle, as she calls it. So she's like, Jackson, walk with me. And by the way, they've also switched up all the schedules. And you hear Torres, as the two leave the room, he goes to Carney. He's like, Carney, you're in the yard. He's like, of course the fuck I am. Which I'm sure yard duty is like the worst duty. Anyway, so she pulls up a video of Jackson on her phone, and she's got the footage that we just talked about. Jackson takes off his hat, signals the fucking sniper. And she's like, who signed your paychecks? And God, again, she's so in his face. Who do you work for, bitch? Who's your mama? Who's your daddy? And he's like, DOC, man. She's like, yeah? All right. Well, as DOC, I control everything you do within these walls. And now, outside. Getting my subtext? And again, this is where that slight twang, getting my subtext. And that is the line right there where I'm wondering, like, is this lady going to do some shit off the street? Or on the street? Outside the... Obviously, I mean, you can keep an eye on these things. If you have prison guards who you're suspicious are goddamn Crips, yeah, you can surveil that type of thing. I'm just, obviously, again, as I keep saying, I wonder if it's going to be outside the law, guys. So the roof of the cell phone store, Bunny's back in business. No, he's been in business, but we're seeing Bunny for the first time, is my point. He's like, you coming about those headless Muscovites? Headless Muscovites. First of all, it's Moscovians, so that makes it even funnier that he uses kind of the wrong term for it. But this is a Crip from fucking Kingstown, America. Why the hell would he know the right term for that? He's brilliant, but you get my point. And he's like, oh, you're also checking about your brother. And God, this scene between them. I've heard, I'm going to liberally steal from a podcast here. And they're like, Bunny and Mike are brothers. That's like completely the dynamic there. They are brothers from another mother, even though, obviously very different backgrounds. They're not biological, but you get my point. Every scene with them, as contentious as it ever gets, it's always like Mike's disappointed or heartbroken, or it's always as if like, no matter what, we're family type thing. And yeah, and that performance comes through with between Bamtifa and Renner in this scene. Family. Oh, so powerful. But so they talk also about the Russian thing, because the headless Muscovites, the dark humor, man. But Bunny is confident that no one's moving in on his territory. And he's like, whoever hit these Russians can come after you, Bunny. He's like, Bunny, you never lacked for confidence. Because he's just like, nah, man, I'm good. I'm making moves. It's like, what moves are you making? And this is, again, perfect setup for... It's such a good opening episode of a season. It just propels you right in, no bullshit. Like, Bunny's got something cooking. So that's always something that we can revisit throughout the season. Such good writing. Anyway, he's like, Kyle's going in tomorrow. And he's like, why didn't you just put that Robert motherfucker down? Because he's like, if he's going to shoot Robert, and this is, again, so interesting. Not only are they kind of unofficial family, these two, but he also has a very common interest in taking Robert off the board. Why would any gangster want that monster on the street? Obviously. Your SWAT guy kills with impunity, as Evelyn says. And he's like, yeah, but he was trying to save a life, Bunny, not take one. So I feel that. Like, you have to explain that. And again, the moment between them, by the way, these moments I'm talking about and the whole familial thing between Mike and Bunny, that is the show, right? Because he's this power broker between the prisons and the gang. He has to work with the gangs. He has to be close in some way, and he usually always favors Bunny, which makes it obviously partial, biased, and as corrupt as all of it gets. It's just fascinating that once again, it's like these heartfelt moments also feed into the theme of the show, which is Mike being so close to the streets necessarily for this power broker situation. Again, family. Oh. I got choked up so many times in these episodes because you just know. We've seen the show. This is the other crazy thing about this season too. We know exactly what Mike is capable of. Again, reptile eyes, A/B house. We know exactly what happens in these prisons. We saw it all, even in the female prison. We saw hits. We saw it. It is as like obviously 50% of the show is a prison show. It's a prison movie / show. So, like we just. This pre-tragedy is my point. It's so hard to watch. And again, this is where Bunny says he's making moves, keeping the streets peaceful. And he's like, oh yeah, peaceful? Right. And so Mike leaves and he's like, try to put your positive hat on, Mike. That's a line throughout the show. Put your positive hat on. Because, and I kept laughing incredulously. Like, even after the decapitation scene, because it's such crazy, it's just the only way for the human to react to this. For any sane human is just going like, what? Like, I'm not, obviously not. It's a laugh of disbelief. Again, incredulous is the only way to put it. Ugh, positive hat. This place is hell on earth. Positive hat. So at the McCluskey residence, how does it make sense that you do the time for Robert? So Tracy is just like, you cannot go into jail. We live in Kingstown. Tracy worked, again, in the jail I just mentioned, even in the female jail, as bad as it all gets. And she's like, you can't go in. Like, you're a fucking cop in Kingstown. How does it make sense that you do time for Robert? And he goes, because this is a house of fucking cards, Trace. Like, and then she goes, yeah, but whose house is it? And this is where out loud I said to myself, this is so good. Like the first time I watched it, even before reviewing it, by myself in my apartment, as I always say, like every single character has motivations that completely, believably interferes with the next one. It's just, as I said before, the least contrived drama. Every one of these characters, Tracy is like, why do you have to take the hit for this guy? But as he explained, Kyle's smart enough to do again, everyone's doing 40 chests just to stay alive in these episodes, let alone take over Kingstown like our boy Moses. Kyle's got to do 40 chests to stay alive because he's like, all right, yeah, if I quote unquote continue doing the right thing, Robert, we went into it before, Robert's a monster, and even Ian flat out says it later on. So this is so interesting, again, later to see what Ian breaks down even more of, that this is what's on Kyle's mind, but he has to face his wife and his kid and still not say all that. Like, he says house of cards, but he doesn't go into like think about, and she's smart enough to know too, but it's just so ugly. This all just so in the yard at Anchor Bay, and also by the way, real quick, we no longer have the option to leave town. This is the other thing, that the theme of prison, and it's might be on the surface a little more obvious of like, yes, you're also imprisoned if you live in the town. Now it's like you can't even leave town if you wanted to. Kyle's getting imprisoned. You're not allowed to leave town if you're under investigation for anything this heavy. Tracy can't leave because she's got to be wherever he's at to visit him. So point is, like, we've had options in the past. And Evelyn, though, this is also worth saying real quick before we get to the Evelyn stuff. Because we never talked about the show, like, I love that character, and this is something I forgot until my rewatch. She goes, this is our home. We have to fight for it. And she says that to Mike, and those two characters saying that back and forth of like, both of these people could leave, and they just kind of choose to dig in their heels, and that's the whole theme of the whole first season. And we'll get back to the episode in a second, but again, totally worth going over that whole first season is The Godfather, essentially. In this particular really weird version of a gang, his name is literally Mike. And, you know, again, this has been pointed out in other podcasts, so I want to be honest, I didn't completely come up with this, but it's all very clear of the guy, the next generation, the reluctant legacy, right, of Mitch gets killed out of nowhere. Mike knew his way around the business, but he didn't know how to be the mayor. And so he kind of reluctantly took it at the end of the first episode, you know. He's like, I can't help you, I can't help you. And the woman's like, but my sister's going in prison and blah, blah. And he's like, what's her name? And that's, he never looked back, kind of, right? And ever since then, he's kind of had this, even though he was feeding the bear and had this potential of living in like Wyoming and becoming a cook, what is it? I forget the name of essentially the camp out cooks for cowboys. I forget what you call them, but which is a very Taylor Sheridan thing. And this dream that you just know Mike's never going to see because he's tied to this town. And now Mike is never going to leave, obviously, because of these new circumstances of the Kyle. So you see my point is that now leaving even, that's how tight the show has gotten, is that no one can even leave this hell of a town, which is pretty great. So in the yard at Anchor Bay, he's like, tranquilo, tranquilo. So Raph really aggressively, not really aggressively, but pretty aggressively walks up to the Colombians in the yard, and it's like gang leader v gang leader, or at least the spokesman of the Colombians v the spokesman of the Crips, which is now Raph. And that's when the guy was like, tranquilo, like, whoa, what's all this aggression? Because Raph's got to come at him hard saying like, look, we're steady now and we no longer want to. Point is that they had a deal of they had to do business with the Colombians, and whatever drugs were coming in via the Colombians, they had to do business with them. But now he's saying like, and this probably goes back to, oh, that's definitely what it is. Okay, so again, this show is so layered that it does take time to kind of put it together. When Bunny said he was making moves before, that definitely is what's happening here. Okay, so Bunny says he's making moves, and that's why they're switching up this plan. Again, they had this arrangement with the Colombians of they would work together. Now he's basically saying, look, I don't want your stuff anymore. And the Colombians like, bro, there's a shipment on its way, and that is COD. Like, after that, sure, we can adjust arrangements, but hell no. And God, the way they shoot this, there's so many guys. It's just a cluster of all these guys in prison. And you have your two leaders who, the physical performance between these actors is incredible because they do have to kind of be in each other's face to be tough guys. They also have to do that to not be loud. And I was thinking about this. I'm like, why are they so close? Like, but they kind of have to do that, right? You're not going to project your voice like you're a podcaster here. And the other thing too is that they still have to, what's it called? Again, be tough. I mean, you're gangsters. Like you gotta, or no, that was it. I already said that. The third thing was I love that it's just in Spanish. This whole scene is in Spanish, and that Raph is this Crip from the streets of Kingstown and speaks fluent Spanish, and that is very cool. Just adds to the fascination of how brilliant, you know, you look at, on its face, you're looking at people in jail. You're like, oh, these people must be complete idiots. And well, meanwhile, again, you're watching like masters playing chess and how smart you have to be, and even that example of Spanish is fascinating. And he's like, look, you can go tell Bunny. He's like, I'm not speaking for Bunny. He's like, this is me. And this whole like who's actually in charge theme comes back even later with the Colombians. Again, we have our Phantom Menace from Detroit. And then even on the law side of things, like it's complete chaos. Mike's entire, you know, quote unquote gang is completely broken up. And like essentially leaderless. Now that Mike is so personal, I was thinking about this, that now that Mike is so personally invested with his brother being in prison, who is a cop, like again, there's so many layers. It's not just his brother in prison and it's Kingstown, right? That's terrible enough. It's brother in Kingstown who's a cop. It's also brother in Kingstown who's a cop who's in your gang, and everyone knows how shady your gang is to try to keep homeostasis in this hellhole. So, and then also add to that, let alone the imprisonment being the result of shooting a fellow gang member, Robert. It's like, it's just, there's so much to it that this chaos, I think, even within Mike's gang, again, goes to this who's actually in charge theme, where Raph is acting, because Bunny tells Raph to act as if he's speaking on his own behalf, and I think that's why Raph says that. I think, and maybe Raph is making his own moves there. I don't know. Even that's unclear. Again, there's so much to this that. But anyway, we're gonna hear on a later phone call that he has with Bunny about like, well, who's I think Roberto is his name, if I'm not mistaken, Alberto. Who's actually in charge of the Colombians, and they're like, we don't, you know, he's like, I don't even know if he seems strong, like he seems to be speaking for himself, but maybe not. Anyway, Carney's like, break that shit up. And so he doesn't want them, obviously. You don't want the leader of Crips, surprisingly, against the leader of the Colombians in the yard. And again, so airtight. We know that Carney's out there on yard duty because of the new warden. And everything is just going in a complete circle, which that's also very much a Wire thing, right? It's a decision from the top completely affects everything going down, and you see every level of the effects. He's like, Bogota's feeling... Oh, so this is when he's on the phone with... Oh, I love too, sorry, real quick, when the Colombian guy's like, Rafa, Rafa, Rafa. Like, that's his word for Raphael. It's just, again, this dialogue. So when he's on the phone with Bunny, he's like, Bogota's feeling fucking strong for some reason. He's like, things are changing for us. Or no. And then Raph also says, things are changing for us. Looks like things are changing for them, too. So, again, Bunny's making moves. We don't know exactly what those moves are, but it seems like, or it is, that the Colombians are also making their own moves, guys. So we'll see. Now, again, this for sure comes back. Oh, so I haven't said this yet. This for sure comes back with this Colombian gunfight in the cars later, but I'm just wondering, like, was that a response to this? Or again, this whole theme in general of who's in charge? Like, in this specific case, the Colombians. Is what happens later necessarily, because again, now we know this Frank Moses guy could be behind anything. We have no idea, like, exactly. Obviously they were Colombians, that's confirmed, but we don't know what's actually going on with again, all this 4D chess that people are playing. Anyway, I also love that we're getting to dig deeper into Hispanic gangs in this show, which we haven't really had much at all. Like, thus far, sorry. So, thus far, we haven't gotten much of that. You know, I think the character's name was Ernesto in that first episode, which he did all that horrific shit with. Oh, God, that was so bad. But anyway, you know, point is, because Mike's brother is a Crip, black dude, we never really get to see much of the inner workings of the Hispanic gang. So maybe we'll get to see, as the show grows, and again, more threats and pressure and stuff, maybe... the whole who's in charge thing and state intervention again. I didn't even think about that with the Colombians. It could be an intervention on that level too. So Aryan meth house, they have to now go to an Aryan meth house. Like, this is Mike's job. Once again, they're openly cooking meth. Mike's got to go in there with 2 homicide cops. He's like, it wasn't fucking us, Mike. And one guy is just super smart and just kind of like brown noses Mike. He knows exactly what's going on. He's appreciative for the opportunity to just, these situations are nuts. Mike doesn't even flinch, headbutts the other guy because the guy gets up and is like, who do you think you're talking to? And he's like, how stupid are you, bro? Like, sincere. Scale of 1 to 10. Because, again, the reason they're there is to investigate the whole Russian situation, just to make sure that the Aryans aren't involved. And if you remember, it's also crucial to make this stop because AB, Aryan Brotherhood, and the Russians were aligned last season, right? So it is crucial to kind of make one of these stops, even though Gunner, as they mentioned, he's been taken off the board. Callahan's an ad seg, which, oof, we'll see that later too. It all just ties together so well. But, like... even the, again, Aryans, it's like, who's in charge? That theme is going throughout. And again, God, who are, now we're going to get an Aryan coming in. It's just, you can't help but forget all these contingencies of like, well, now what? What's going to happen? We're definitely going to get some new AB villain this season as well. Oh my God. Anyway, and if you analyze it, it's so brilliant, by the way, this whole little scene here, like, firstly, the deliberate troll of bringing a black detective into an Aryan meth house. That was not accidental by Mike. Then if you think about it, it's not a cop that headbutts the Nazi. So if you kind of think about like it's very little action, but Mike headbutts the dude, but the cops have ultimate deniability, right? So my point is that anytime Mike goes around with his gang, it's like he has the cops there to keep it quote unquote official and be like, oh, I represent the law. Really, they're kind of his backup and muscle. So if anything happens, he has not just detectives, literal homicide detectives, one of whom is a lieutenant, to confirm whatever Mike's story wants it to be, right? So he has he has the police on his side, but when it comes to doing the dirt, he just does it all himself. And the fact that that's like part of his job is this awful violence. And weirdly, like real quick, with Mitch, it's fascinating to wonder about that. Mitch didn't seem that violent, right? It seemed like Mike was his muscle. And now Mike's just got to do it all. He has to be the mayor and the muscle, which is, man. So as they walk out, Mike asks Ian and Stevie about Robert, because we haven't seen Robert yet this episode. We talked about him, but we have not seen him. And so Ian says no one's seen him because he's like, he's been benched, dude. Like, no one's seen his ass. And also, though, he's like, yeah, but he hasn't said a word about Evelyn. So, and of course, Ian's trying to play this whole thing cool because Mike's probably still so pissed at him, obviously, about the Morrissey situation and bringing a serial killer to a cop's house and literally getting him killed. Anyway, so Mike isn't convinced, and he's like, yeah, great. I'm glad that he hasn't said anything yet. Go check on him. Like, I'm not asking. So, again, it's so fascinating to watch Ian trying to downplay this because he just knows how fucked he himself is as well. Mike, as always, just get it done. Keep your eyes on him. Thank you. When Mike does that, like, he tells people to do stuff, and before he either like leaves the room or hangs up the phone, thank you. Just try. He's just always trying to keep it together. That's the thing with Mike. And anytime people call him, he's annoyed that he has to go do things. His character's so good. And so Stevie and Ian kind of linger outside the meth house, and he's like, man, just throw him under the bus. Like, fuck Robert. Why would... But he's like, think about it. Robert will not go down quietly. He's like, Kyle's not doing this for Robert, Stevie. He's doing this for us. Because, back to it, this is what he can't tell Tracy, but what everyone knows is that this, obviously, all these guys are in a gang. This is a gang. This is gang activity. And you can draw it out all you want and be like, oh, this is our gang of guys. But because this show is so real, like on a Wire level, on a Sopranos or Breaking Bad, meaning it's as real world as it gets, at a certain point, you're going to have this season of intervention altogether. It's just like, you guys can't keep doing this. Obviously. And even morally, it's fascinating too, because like you understand every person's motivation. You can completely understand why Mitch and Mike's father invented this thing, as Diane Weist's character tells us in the first season. Miriam tells us, she's like, you know, your father invented it, but you guys are gangsters. It's what you do. So anyway, Anchor Bay Adseg, C.O. Cindy, that was her name. This is a new character to this season. So C.O. Cindy is getting the tour from Carney. It was smart, I thought, having a new C.O. introduce the audience to Adseg in detail like this. Like, we had some of the kind of Silence of the Lambs shit going on with whatever psycho, I forget his name, but the guy from the first season when they do have the prison riots and the main black guy who takes over. We got some of that Silence of the Lambs type stuff here, but now we got a tour of like, this is how Adseg works. It's like those yellow lines. It's not the yellow brick fucking road. Carney's so good. Anyway, so Carney tells her about Kyle coming in, and she's like, well, what is a cop being put in here for? And he's like, for being a stand-up guy. So he's smart enough not to tell her the whole truth about that. Anyway, KPD homicide. Stevie shows Ian that Iris came up dead, which Mike does not know. And as they had that whole thing between them last season of Mike has no idea what Iris's last name even is. So, and also I thought this was cool. First indication of the time lapse since last season, which is 1 month. Because he's like, I dropped her off 1 month ago. So again, this is a show that at its best does not wait for you to watch it. TV concentrate. And we now just got like the 1 month later. And it was via dialogue, not a title card. So anyway, Ian insists that Stevie, he's like, no, do not tell Mike. And that's another mystery of like, who the hell is Iris? Why is she Milo's kid? Is she Constantine's kid? Is she like, what is the significance of this character? I mean, we all know that how interesting she actually was to watch, but which is not very, but in terms of like who she is, it is like, I love that this is another mystery of what's going on here. It's very, feels very noirish. And the damsel in distress, what happened to her? I also think that it's perfect that it's snowing, like to open this super dark season of. We don't always get Kingstown in the snow, so I like that. It's all just and then Evelyn right here, ice cold, bro. I guess that's what made me think of the snow. But we've seen it throughout the episode. Evelyn here, those eyes. Everyone's got their own version of the reptile eyes. I just realized that. Because she's got to go up against people she knows have done all this savage shit. So she's got to look at people dark too, right? She's got to have that look. Anyway, she's like, give me Robert Sawyer and I'll forget about Charlie and Morrissey. This woman makes deals that like, and these guys still don't appreciate it. They don't, because that's how crazy of a town this is that she is going to forget about him taking a serial killer to kill another cop if he gives her Robert Sawyer. Like, that's wild. Anyway, she's like, all right, well, I've compiled all, because this is a whole time thing. This whole episode is the lead up to Kyle going into prison and all this time stuff. Final business before Kyle goes away, tie up loose ends type thing. And Evelyn's at least, like, we'll see. She goes to Mike next, but she comes to, she's like, look, we can try to get Kyle out of this as far as possible, as realistically as possible. And she's like, all right, well, I compiled a lot of footage for you, and this isn't going to go well if you don't want to play ball. And she's like, we're going to the grand jury. And he's like, I'll see you in the Coliseum. Ugh. Ian is so fucked, dude. Like, he's so done. Ugh. Anyway, then we see Robert is following Evelyn. Not only following Evelyn, followed Evelyn to KPD. So this dude is parked in his own truck outside the Office of Homicide Detectives at a police station and is following the DA. Right. Like, he is so unhinged. And quite possibly, I was thinking about this, the most dangerous thing this psycho has ever faced is having nothing to do. Like, he's suspended, can't work, right? And he's just like, I'm going nuts, can't do anything. My wife's asking me questions. Like, this is the ultimate alpha male, again, reptile psychopath. He has to be doing work, at the very least, if not killing people while doing it. So, yeah, talk about idle hands, bro. And this is where he's just going to turn into such a dark, like, outlaw soldier in this. Him and Ian are going to do such sick shit under the table. I mean, obviously. And Ian flat out says it. Like, this is where they talk about it. And also, real quick, the dialogue plays perfectly. Like, they constantly talk over each other and argue. It's one thing I always loved about the show, even from season 1. Just the way people speak. And that's throughout the Sheridan shows. He's very good about that kind of thing. He's like, fuck Mike, fuck you, for that matter. Robert is such a monster. And he's like, all right, bro, our heads are on the fucking chopping block. Like, you can get mad at me as you want. And Ian, and I just love that Hugh Dillon has written himself as a pretty cold-blooded killer in this show. Like, what about the guy on the porch? Just takes out his gun right away, kills the serial killer, after the serial killer kills another cop. Like, oh my, all that is on Ian. That's just one thing that Ian has done. One, people. And he's like, well, at a certain point, somebody has to solve the problem. I'll say this, I don't want to give too much away, but watch Wind River. And Wind River is a big, like, if you want to see all the actors in Taylor Sheridan stuff, anywhere from Mayor of Kingstown to Landman to Yellowstone, even though there's overlaps in like all those shows with his actors, Wind River has like every actor in that movie, and Hugh Dillon is so good in that movie. So yeah, check out that movie for sure if you want to see some. Speaking of this scene, I'll leave it at that. So back at Anchor Bay, our mayor finally meets our warden. And this scene, people, is why these two are Jeremy Renner and Edie Falco. Like, I said before, there is not a word wasted that comes out of her mouth. And the way that Renner feeds into those silences of him trying to play the game kind of at first, assert his power, she's asserting hers. She's like, oh, I'm so humbled. The mayor of Kingstown. He's like, why are you humbled? Oh, the mayor of Kingstown coming to my office. And he goes, office may be humble. You? Not so sure about that. Like, and she goes, oh, okay, well, I assume you're here about your brother. Her level of just enough sarcasm of like, I'm seeing through your bullshit, don't have time for it, don't care, is so good, while also not getting like, again, no words wasted. Is like, I am here to ensure that he has a soft landing. Because again, anywhere Mike walks in this town, he has all the power. And this is like the first, especially weirdly, a prison. Yeah, not anymore. And he's like, well, look, you take care of me, I'll take care of you. She's like, oh, really? Okay. Please, what does you taking care of me look like exactly? And this is where the pauses of just, who you're talking to the mayor right now, and she just doesn't care. She does not care. By the way, this is how much of a gangster she is in terms of balls. Like, she knows these guys are all killers with all this power, right? Literally legitimately powered killers is what you're dealing with. She knows everything that Mike has done. And she still is like, yeah, go ahead. Like, blow my head off at some point. I don't care. That's pretty wild, man. Anyway, she's like, yeah, I don't anticipate needing any assists, so I'm good. And she's like, look, this is my castle, so it's up to me anytime the drawbridge goes down, and I will keep him alive like I keep all my wards alive. He's like, I'm going to need more than that. Like, just then keep him, like, I'm going to need... And again, they both stay so calm. There's like another slight back and forth of the whole like, all right, let's be reasonable. Let's do this. Let's do that. Well, why can't you do this? And again, Mike knows everything about the prisons. And this is where this Taylor Sheridan dialogue is so good. It's like, well, what about this? I know this about the prison, so what about this? And she goes, well, I have someone else on that duty. What about that duty? We can get him around this. And I wonder if that's where Mike was actually imprisoned. I mean, obviously he was in one of these prisons. I wonder if it was actually Anchor Bay. That'd be pretty fascinating. But anyway, he knows the ins and outs, and she's just, and finally he's just like, look, let's cut the shit. If anything happens to my brother, there will be consequences. He's like, you want peace in your castle? Like, don't fuck around here. And then to get her reaction, again, camera work throughout this episode, to get her reaction through the voyeuristic like office blinds, which gives, ironically, I've heard like camera people talk about it, that gives an ironic intimacy to the scene of like, you feel closer, even though it's a voyeuristic shot. So even though you're not getting a close-up of her reaction, it's more powerful because she's kind of left alone with what am I dealing with here? She doesn't look scared, but you know, like, as much as people are testing Mike's power, again, reptile eyes, AB house. So in the cold streets of Kingstown, guys, Mike is driving. Mike then finds a woman on the street passed out. And he doesn't even know if she's dead, like what. So he checks her pulse and all that. And he's like, and she's just kind of mumbling. And then he hears her say, another beautiful damn day. Because he said before, he's like, this is going to be a hell of a day already. And he's just like, you'll be all right. So he's comforting her. He calls it in. And I think that, you know, this never comes back as far as I see in this episode. And it probably won't. But I think it's just to I think it's just, let's get one win for this guy. Which is exactly what Rebecca says in the next scene about him. She's like, you can't save everyone, Mike. But at least he saved her. Like, at least he goes from a position of no power, no control. Not no, but it's Edie Falco, Nina Hobbs just really checked this guy's power. This is something this is a problem he can solve. And it also is like, this is who he is. He helps people on the street, even though he has this background of literally coming from a prison. And just like, look at this town. This is what he would have literally driven, if he was texting, he would have run over this woman. She's in the middle of the street, passed out, nearly passed out on drugs. So like, it's also, welcome back to Kingstown. Mike's office. She's like, how'd you sleep? Just enough to not have nightmares. And oh God, like, this dialogue is again so good, so noir. The hot assistant in the shitty office, the PI with the shady past. He's cleaning his gun, which I think is another cool thing too, like, or it's another deliberate thing of him, ablution, right? Cleaning of like, I can control this. I can clean my gun. And it's also very gangster, badass. And yeah, it's just very noir. Love it. So Evelyn shows up. And Rebecca is a straight up goon in this scene. At first I put bodyguard, delete, goon. Now, we know that Rebecca has a shady past. She reveals that to Iris, but like, I kind of forgot that until my rewatch, first of all. But then it really confirms it here. We've never seen this physicality from this character. Like, she would have knocked Evelyn out. She does not care. And it's like everyone in Mike's gang. Everyone in Mike's gang has this shady, violent past somehow. He's like, if you're going to work for me, you have to at least be violent in some way. So Mike finally lets her in. He's like, don't sit. Don't sit. He is so angry. And don't sit is a callback, by the way, to season 1. He's like, the rule is you always have to sit in his office. And he has that shotgun under the, which again is like, who is this guy? It's such an old school PI, almost Western thing where he has the shotgun like built into the desk. And there was that one guy that didn't want to sit. And also when that Mexican guy who killed the Russian lady in the first episode, he puts his hand on it for that. But the rule he tells that other guy, he's like, if you're in this office, you have to sit. And if you don't want to, we're going to have a problem. So that's like the rule. And then, so for him to say, don't sit, I thought that was such an interesting, like, I forget, Dave Erickson, yeah, who wrote this episode, he really knows his own show here, which is good. And she goes, look, I've done all I can. He's like, oh, you have, Evelyn. You've done all you can. Ugh. The way he looks at her and talks to her in this scene is so powerful. Because again, the theme of this performance, it's, in this specific episode, is Mike containing it. And he's like, you know that what you did was wrong. You know exactly what you did. And she's like, it's not wrong. Again, he went from 20 years to a possible 6 months. That's the magic that she kind of pulled for this. And he goes, okay, well, end the condition of the surrender then. Again, the Sheridan dialogue. Like, there's even more layers to it. Mike knows every single layer of, like, every condition of someone going into prison. And he goes, all right, well, end the condition of the surrender then. Because again, I guess that goes back to what we saw with the lawyer of, he's got to do the perp walk essentially and go through the county sheriff. Anyway, so she's like, look, Kyle goes in like every other prisoner. And then I can't believe she said this. Just like you did, Mike. I'm sorry. Why did you just add that? Like, there was no reason. But maybe this is where I really respect this character. And 100,000%, like I said before, you understand every character. Look, at the end of the day, she is a DA, right? I mean, this woman is, she's the law. And she's not really she has worked with Mike, but she's not nearly as, in terms of the corruption scale, she's real low. And I think that's what is so fascinating about it. At a certain point, she's like, look, I helped. Don't act like I didn't. But but at the end of the day, my point is that back to Mike being in prison, just like you did, Mike, she didn't need to say that. But I think she said it of like, look, you're a criminal. You don't tell me what to do. That's what that line was. And then he's like, all right, you're dead to me. Fucking dead. And then he's like, get the fuck out. Ooh. Oh, just like his quiet intensity there. Renner. And again, going back to like my Renner rewatch, he's such a different character in that, I think his name is James in The Town, right? He's just this like Boston street kid who's complete muscle psycho. And here he's just trying to keep it together. He's such a good actor, man. My God. And he doesn't overplay it in that movie, but again, just such a different character. So then the profile shot still in his office of Mike sitting in his chair, taking a breath, like, it choked me up. Like, he's trying so hard to keep it together. Because he knows himself. He knows himself more than anyone and know what will happen if he lets any of it go. That is a valve you don't, plug again or whatever. Anyway, McCluskey residence. Kyle says goodbye to Tracy. This episode, like, this is the 1883 of Mayor of Kingstown. It's so sad. Sadness the series, as I called it. They also shot it really well. Like, they even got coverage of the baby after her. Also, Mike and Tracy don't even speak, because what do you say? What do you say to her? I mean, the layers of what is between Mike and Tracy, you do the math. The guilt, the responsibility, all of it. So Raph calls Bunny from prison. He's like, Bogota's not budging, man. So the Colombians aren't budging. And he reports, because again, he's like, the Colombians like, look, you got to pay. Like, we have a shipment. And the Colombians even said too, like, we can talk about adjustments afterward. That might be bullshit, but at least they offered that. But Bunny is not budging. Bunny is also not budging. And Raph says he's not sure. Sorry. Raph says he's not sure if Robert is the one who's actually, or Roberto, I think the guy's name is, the Colombian. And again, this goes back to the whole, like, who's in charge type thing. And oh man, this scene here. This is the Crip version of the scene we just saw. And he's like, I just visited your people. He's like, thank you for visiting my family, man. He's like, it's what I owe. God. And by the way, Bunny is way better to Raph's people than Tony Soprano was, right? We see in The Sopranos, they're like, oh, we'll take care of you. I mean, they even say it in the swearing in ceremony when you get made. And then we see what actually happens when people go inside. They never get taken care of. We saw it in Goodfellas. You know, Henry Hill's got to fend for himself, all that stuff. So, whereas Bunny is like actually taking care of Raph's people. But the deal is like, you have to be my man in prison. That's your job. That's, oh, God. And again, so sad. Like these two actors, by the way, I don't know what, I don't know where the guy, the guy who plays Raph, I don't know his name, but Bunny is so damn good. Tony Bamtifa, sorry. I keep skipping my words here. Toby Bamtifa. And again, I can't believe he's British in real life. Bunny's British. So Kyle's prison farewell at the bar, because these are Irish cops, and of course they got a drink before they go. Mike checks in with Carney. He takes him outside. He's like, look, tell me what's going on. My brother's about to go in prison, the cop. So Carney tells him about the new hot CO, as if that's relevant. He's like, I try not to shit where I eat. I'm just saying. He's like, yeah, well, try not to. Like, thanks for pointing that out. Corey's so funny. And again, why this dialogue's so real. In any other show, he wouldn't have mentioned that she's hot, but he had to mention that. And he's like, look, dude, I did everything I can. And we know Carney is a capable, in terms of like a corrupt CO, my boy is capable. And I shouldn't say my boy, he's done horrible things, but you get my point. Like, he's also Mike's gang, obviously, and very capable. And he's just like, look, this warden will not rearrange the schedule for Kyle's gauntlet to the cell. And he's like, he just got to do the walk. And he goes, yeah, it's a long fucking walk, Carney. Because this is the thing, you can't BS Mike the way that they used to probably in some ways bullshit Mitch. I guess ultimately you couldn't, because Mike could be sitting right there to confirm it. Like, Mike was the number 2 and his muscle and everything. So, but again, I still think that Mike is even more no nonsense the way that Edie is in the position of the mayor of Kingstown because of his background in prison. Sorry, they also cut out the sound when Mike walks into the bar. And this speaks once again, the production of this episode, camera work, writing. I mean, this is all operating. It's just top-notch shit here. Because Mike just can't believe this is coming down to the wire, as we keep saying. His brother, the cop, is going to prison. He just can't comprehend all this. He's normally used to having at least some level of control, and none of that control applies here. This liberal use of handheld in this episode, by the way, like back to camera work, production, it's liberal, but it's just enough. Because I'm a stickler for over overuse of handheld, and they do it just right, I thought. Which, holy crap, we're going to get to in that shootout later. My God. Again, how many times have we seen shootouts? I noticed this in the show Task, which, spoilers, we're going to do a Patreon for that at some point, of my reaction to Task. And that show, like, seeing someone's house get raided for, how many times have we seen a house get raided? And this show is the same, of like, they make something you've seen a million times so tense. Like this, all respect to Shamar Moore, this ain't SWAT. This is, oh my God. So in the car to prison, obviously Kyle and Mike, and it's just the saddest of all the sadness in this episode. This takes the cake. And this actor is so good that plays Kyle. I really impressive. I forgot his name. I said it before, but I'm really impressed with the character Kyle. And then just with this performance ability, we're going to see later, obviously, like what Kyle will transform into, inevitably, one way or another. Oh my God. I can't wait to see this actor play into some of that. So Kyle wants to be numb, and he's like, no, wake up. And he gives him something to wake him up. I don't know if at first it looks like a mint thing, but knowing Mike, you know, this is a guy who barely sleeps, noir detective type character. He's probably got some weird version of uppers on him. So, point is, I didn't know exactly what that was, but he wants him to not be numb. He's like, look, the only time you're going to be safe is in your cell. And this is what, it's like so heartbreaking. Mike is trying to be as real with him as possible. The only time you're going to be safe is in your cell. Watch everyone without watching. He's like, do not become them to survive. And Mike is terrified that Kyle will become him. He knows where that road leads. Mike is more self-aware than maybe anyone on the show. Like, because even we saw before, Bunny's overconfident. I think that Mike doesn't always, obviously, he makes wrong decisions all the time, but he doesn't do it out of like overconfidence for sure. Mike knows exactly what he's become and what prison made him. And just knowing that his brother is probably going to turn into that even worse though, because now it's like he's a cop in prison and who knows, God, all right, well, we'll get to it, but obvious predictions of where we end up seeing Kyle later on in this episode. So the transformation, as I said, of prison Kyle, we can call him. It's going to be nuts because look, it's in terms of like the darkest form of legacy, this newly formed Kyle might take over the mayor position. If you think about it, since, you know, Mike has had prison time behind him, now he'll have had that same kind of prison time. So if you think about this super dark, not in a good way, passing the mantle of mayor from Mitch to Mike, and then who knows where this show ends up going. You know, look, it's possible that Mike ends up going away. If Mike does something crazy and we're in positions now of like, it's out of control, who knows? This whole gang could go down for shit. And then think about it, if Kyle plays his cards right, as horrible, as absolutely horrible as the next 6 months are going to be, he could get out in 6 months and become the mayor of Kingstown. So that is something I never crossed my mind. You never would have thought Kyle, but then you start thinking, you go down, you go through it, and you're like, oh, well, I know this show. Well, what do you need to be the mayor of Kingstown? Well, in Mike's case, prison time. So who knows, man? And the fact that no one else will be able to do it. Like, he's the only next... It's a McCluskey business. It's the McCluskey family business. You see my point. So Mike drops off Kyle. They say, I love you, which Irish guys like this never say. And this is just the peak sadness of this whole thing. Like, it was sad before when he was breaking things down, but them having to like embrace, say I love you, oh, good Lord. And again, Renner's physicality, the way he shifts his shoulders. So there's another profile shot. This time he's in the driver's seat right after he drops off Kyle, and like the way he shifts his shoulders in this driver's seat to keep it together is Renner, because all the time, I mean, he probably does so much of the action on this show. He's just constantly beating the hell out of people, muscle. Go back to the town. You know, I mean, he's such a maniac in that movie. The amount of running around, he's a fucking bank robber, out of his mind. Then he's Hawkeye, like he's literally a superhero. Then even in what's it called? In Wind River. It's much less, but because he's a hunter in that, so it's not like he's, you know, fist fighting all the time, but he's a killer. For sure. And the physicality and all the Taylor Sheridan stuff, all that stuff has to be real. Like if you're in nature, if you're a hunter in Wyoming, you look and act and perform as a hunter in Wyoming. All the gun stuff, you get my point. Like it's all authentic in Sheridan projects, and Renner has to make all that believable. On top of all this emotional stuff. I mean, the dude is just a master at his craft. So on the cold streets, back on the cold streets of Kingstown, excuse me, Bunny gets pulled up on. Oh, Siri just is talking to me. Sorry there. Bunny gets pulled up on and shot at by this beat up Jetta. So I gotta say, for a smaller crime show, like the car chases are exceptional. People have talked on podcasts and stuff that this doesn't seem like a super expensive show. It easily could be in the movies. Like you could put this on a big screen, no problem. I just mean, you wouldn't watch it. You wouldn't walk out of this going like, oh, that's an ultra expensive movie. Because car shit, my point is that car stuff, car chases are expensive. And I just, again, I'm impressed that how good the car chases are in the show. And again, how many car chases have we seen on television, in movies? They still make these like, oh my God, all the car shit is so good. And then I love Ian's line. He's like, it's a fucking pinata on wheels. Pinata on wheels. That is, that's good writing right there. He's like, it's an update, not an invitation, Mike. And Mike's like, yeah, okay. Mike turning around, count one. That's throughout this whole show. That Mike turns around in that Lincoln more times than anyone's ever turned around in a car. Kyle's on the correction bus. And so begins this back and forth of cop in prison day one, and then a spectacular shootout on the streets. Like, again, how many times have we seen shootouts? I don't care. You're just going the whole time. You're like, what am I watching? And it's also classic Kingstown, right? Prison and town are equally violent, equally deadly. There's no getting out. Anywhere you are, the violence will find you. Yeah, God. Anyway, so Anchor Bay Yard, and also literally what's happening in the prison is the reason for this, and vice versa. So the amount of back and forth is my point. It's not just you're intercutting it like it's, you know, the end of Phantom Menace, guys. My non-nerds are like, shut up. Back to Anchor Bay Yard. Kyle does his perp walk. This is exactly what Mike was talking about. And every dude in this place knows who he is. Every motherfucker in this yard. Like, also real quick, I was talking about production quality. The color grading throughout this episode is great. Between the snow and the gray and this dark Michigan noir crap going on, it's like daytime noir at its best. I just thought of that. Like, obviously noir is usually obviously night, rain. This is like day snow. Oh, very Michigan, very American. I love it. Very Taylor Sheridan, right? Get other areas besides cities, you know, of America and crime. Anyway, so right as Mike intervenes with his car, by the way, and this is such a Mike thing to do, like, if you remember one of the seasons, he physically just pulls right between A, B, and Crips. This time he pulls up right across the street and just gets right in the way of these Colombian guys in the car. As that is happening, Kyle gets attacked. It's just such good editing. Even editing, like I said, production is top notch, bro. Now, this attack, this guy's like, hey, you lost? So the CO that's walking him, his name was CO Mullen. Again, Mike was already pissed that Carney's not doing this, because Carney would have at least been, he would have been a lot more proactive than whoever this Mullen guy is. And the point is, they see this janitor, and he's like, hey, are you lost? This janitor's not supposed to be where he is the point. He's like, is this your cell block? Answer me. He's like, is this your cell block? The guy obviously doesn't answer, starts attacking, throws bleach. I'm assuming it was bleach. I rewatched it a couple times. I was like, is that acid? It's probably just bleach because it's a janitor cart, right? Ugh, just probably throws bleach in this dude's face, which in and of itself, who even wants to think about that? And then the lock in the sock goes right for Kyle. Kyle has not even gotten to his cell. Mike said, the only place you'll be safe is in your cell. It's day one. That doesn't even sum it up. It's not even cell one. He hasn't seen his cell. And just gets, obviously, hit in the head, hit in the body. I'm kind of glad we didn't get any like close-ups of the hitting, because I think that there was no need for it. We know what is happening when a lock is in a sock. But, and then finally, you know, other COs show up and break it up. And this new CO, this female, CO Cindy, does not know what the fuck to do. Like, she's standing there going, I mean, this is her first day of work. Day one. All right, it was that day. If not, it's literally 24 hours. I'm pretty sure this whole episode is within 2 days. And then as we got confirmation once again, 1 month after the events of season 3. So cut directly to this same new CO trying to go home. And by the way, back to the shootout in the street, because we didn't get into detail there. Holy crap, this shootout. Like, you got the car chase before that, which was super messy. And again, the handheld, I was like, I don't know about handheld, but in this, I don't even notice it, because it's supposed to represent, obviously, the chaos of it and everything, right? So you have this, like, first the Crips get pulled up on, and then cops see that happening. So that's how they get involved. And it's just this, like, all this shit keeps building up. Then the Crips disappear, and then it's cops v Russians. So it's like, or no, cops v Colombians. So the thing, this is how everything in Kingstown happens. It's not just violence is like necessarily this big planned thing. It's that, and that's exactly how it happens in real life. Shit just pops off and then turns into this powder keg. And then Mike, it's his job, and he loves the violence himself. He's muscle. He pulls up, and then you can see again his physicality. He lets the cops. He has, every time he's around his gang, it's all calculated. He lets them shoot it out. And then the second he knows that they don't have it under control, he gets up and just unloads 3 into this one guy. Like, just drops this dude with 3 bullets. And even Stevie, you saw, like, Stevie was, you know, stop, put your hand, like, he was not playing games. And Stevie, I'm pretty sure, takes out a guy. At the end of the day, I mean, they talk about this on the Talking Sopranos podcast. Like, these guys talk as much shit as they want at the Bing, and they hang out, and they crack jokes. End of the day, these dudes are cold-blooded killers. And then again, weirdly in this case, it's like, actually they're cops doing their job. In this case, they're doing their job. They can't, because they are. You can't let people open fire in the middle of a street. But we also know how corrupt they are. So it's so layered and fascinating, like I said. I love that shootout. So the way the shootout ends up ending, 2 or 3 of them are dead, I believe, and then 1 lived is the point. So he's like, hands, hands, hands. So one guy is on the ground, locked up, or detained. So Anchor Bay Yard, as I said, Kyle does his perp walk. All right, so we already saw that, or we already talked about that. It is wild the way, though, that they intercut this stuff, and then cut from there, again, as I said, CO Cindy, just like, what am I watching? I just watched a cop not even make it to his cell, get beaten with a lock and a sock, and then another CO, like, which means at any point she herself could get bleached in the face and lock-socked. Cut to her pulling up to her house. And it's just like, oh God, she has to now separate this. This woman has a whole life, and she seems like a pretty good person. So she goes right for the washing machine. Again, this idea of ablution, right? Mike was cleaning his gun before. What control do people have to separate the hell from whatever they can do to try to contain it, right? Keep your sanity, whatever. She was also smoking, right? So it's like her old self coming in. The kid brings up the smoking. Oh, I can tell you've been smoking. But she's trying to wash it off, goes right for the washing machine, washes her clothes, changes her clothes. And then even before she walks in to see her other younger daughters, like, she has to kind of face the older kid, and the older kid's like, Jesus, what are you doing with your life? Like, I'm so worried about my mom, and I can smell the smoke. She walks in and, like, takes this pause, and this actor, I think Lauren Bonatti is her name once again, the way that she just takes that pause, sips the beer at the door frame, and just leaves, try to leave the prison, what she just saw behind her, it's so good. So, last scene at the bar, Ian is with Mike. The kid is in custody, and this is where we get the information once again that this Colombian kid is now in custody, and he's saying nothing. Like, he's just totally omerta. I like how he calls him, he's like, this fucking Sicario kid, and if you remember, Taylor Sheridan wrote the movie Sicario. He's like, he better talk, whatever. But the kid asked about the person that Mike shot, because again, Mike unloaded on one of these kids, and he's like, it's possibly a blood relation. So this is yet another layer. Again, the amount of things that get set up in this episode, not just paid off from season 3, setup of like, what is Bunny planning? We still don't know that. Now Mike has probably a vendetta of Colombians against him. So we probably have a cartel now wants a piece of Mike. So it's just, this guy, it's endless the amount of people who are after him. And that might end up adding up to, again, maybe Mike has to go to prison at some point, because he's got to retaliate against all these people coming after him. He knows his temper. We know his temper. Anyway. And then this is just, oh, you feel so bad for these dudes. Well, at least we know who killed the Russians. My God, like, this dude's life. Again, you want to give him a win, and that's it reinforces what I said before. That's for sure. Now I am 1,000%. That is 100% why we got before that lady in the street, that's Mike's one win, because even when Mike feels like he got a win with like, well, at least there's some resolution. We had to kill some people in the street in this horrible gunfight. 3 people are dead. Well, at least we know what's going on. And you have no idea what's going on. And that was for sure a theme of like season 2. Even, again, that's where the show took a dip for me. I do respect season 2 for the fact that like they just showed that with this insane job, Mike barely has control. Like there's only a certain level of control anyone can have in that situation. So I'm glad that before they kind of brought it back to its feet, you were like, oh, you know, that like that day that Mike just turns off his phone and drinks all day, leaves his phone in his office and bar hops, that kind of shit. But, oh God. Anyway, back to this. He's like, Kyle's going to be okay. Ian is so full of shit. I think that's again where Mike's like, yeah. Sure he is. So Anchor Bay ad seg. Oh, that's right. This isn't the last scene. This is where we got a little bit of a tag here. Anchor Bay ad seg. Having Callahan right next to Kyle is brilliant. And he's like, look, you want to live? Do not go to sick bay. He's like, get some rest, brother. So Callahan is still an ad seg from all the events of last season, right? Mike had to be AB to BAB, yes. Mike, had to be AB to survive. Is Kyle gonna become AB to survive, guys? I know I'm sure I don't seem very intelligent coming up with that. That's pretty clear that what they're presenting as a possibility there, but it's very like, I mean, he at least has to sit there and listen to the guy. Like, who else is helping him right now? Who else can help this guy beside AB? Because that's Kingstown. Your best friend is the leader of the Aryan Brotherhood. Yay. So Carney calls Mike, reporting the incident about Kyle. And Renner's face. Again, he feels like he has a win. Well, at least we know what's going on with the Russians. And then he hears about the lock in a sock. And he just can't believe all the stuff that he had. And he even said that to Evelyn. He has a great line. He's like, you know what I did yesterday? You know, my day was yesterday was making sure on every angle that my brother wouldn't get killed. It's just so crazy. Like that was his day. And then back to this, it's like he finally gets some level of control. Ian literally just said, Kyle's going to be fine. Cut to, and we knew Kyle was going to be fine. And we saw the scene before, but you get my point. It's like, dude just can't get a break. So his face of, and this is again, everything I've been saying in the episode, Renner trying to keep it together, even to the last word he says on the phone to Carney. He's like, yep, I get it. Okay, fine. Because, you know, he's going, well, how did this happen? What the fuck? And he is mad, clearly. But before he hangs up, he's like, yep, I get it. And then he just loses it. When he melts down and hits his car, he's like, God damn it, God fucking it. He's just, every curse, it is wild. I mean, Mike just flips out. And he doesn't overdo it either. It's not overacting. It's just, we finally saw that temper kind of come out. And holy. But that face, that he's got to win all the Emmys for this. And Edie too. She's going to win them all. Like, the face that he made, again, the shoulder shifts, those profile shots on the shoulder shifts, Mike trying to keep it together, the way he was looking at Evelyn, and the look on his face during these phone conversations. Because again, this is the beauty. My point is, those are what are going to get him an Emmy if you care about awards. But my point is, like, for a character, this is the beauty of television. We have had how many years to know what this guy is capable of. The reptile eyes in the AB house, that's who he is. So we know exactly what this dude, so to see him try to keep it together, that is the, God, such good acting. And that is credits. So final thoughts and recommends, man. I mean, like, this is not a recommendation. It is a matter of television urgency, guys. I'm going to completely violate the title of our very podcast here and definitively say you have to watch this show. I hate when people say that. That's why it's called Too Many Shows. You have to watch the show. And I say that because I can confirm now it's truly going somewhere. Now, I always put the show at the top of my recommendations list, like the second I saw it. But meaning, like, therefore it's worth putting in the time and catching up on to then get current with this. Because I can tell you, like, the show has matured and it has found a footing that, holy crap, I had no idea. Before watching it, honestly, like I remember, for whatever reason, I remember making my bed during this moment. I'm like making my bed going, man, don't get your hopes up too much. Because so many movies and franchises and shit you love can burn you so bad. It's not a great time for television and movies, and it's not worth going into that. But so, in a world of, again, so many unoriginal things, this is seriously one of the most original approaches to classic crime, gang stuff, prison movies. It is such good television. So, sorry, I'm now recommending it at a much higher level, is the point. So if you're looking for a new show, seriously look no further. Catch the fuck up. Forget the whole too many shows thing. Forget the name of my podcast. Stop listening to all this. Don't listen to me ever again, and watch this show. And that is the show. If you haven't already, smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications for future streams of Too Many Shows. Subscribe and follow the pod. Again, that's Too Many Shows, a TV podcast. Any kind of super donation here on the stream or on any of our videos is much appreciated. And again, every Monday, Kingstown reviews continue, starting between 2 and 2:30 p.m. EST, on finally our exclusive pod for Tulsa King, the Sam Jackson spin-off series of Tulsa King, patreon.com/BatmanBeyondMedia. Just click the link in the show notes. And again, our Alien Earth post-mortem pod is on there as well. Early access to podcasts, detailed episode notes for each new pod. That's all just at the $1 level. And again, that's patreon.com/BatmanBeyondMedia. This has been Benjamin, reminding you to watch your shows